I believe desire and will to win is everything. I don't know why I'm like I am, but my butt's always burning. There's always something say, Art, dadgummit, you're supposed to go for it. Art, dadgummit, you're supposed to be somebody. You're supposed to make a difference with your life. What does the $500,000 a year person do? The $50,000 a year person doesn't do. You look at the outside and study those two individuals, everything seems to be the same. They both are the same sex, they both are the same age, they have the same training, the same positions, the same contract, the same fringe benefits. They both are successful, they work hard, they're good family people, make tough commitments. But what's the difference? What does the $500,000 a year person do? The $50,000 a year person doesn't do. He pays the price and a little bit more. He works hard and a little bit more. He's loyal to the company and a little bit more. He believes in a little bit more. He makes money and a little bit more. He saves money and a little bit more. If you want to win in these United States, you got to be tough and you can't quit.
I called up Bill Hewlett when I was 12 years old, and he lived in Palo Alto. His number was still in the phone book. And he answered the phone himself. He said, yes? He said, hi, I'm Steve Jobs. I'm 12 years old. I'm a student in high school, and I want to build a frequency counter. And I was wondering if you had any spare parts I could have. And he laughed, and he gave me the spare parts to build this frequency counter, and he gave me a job that summer in Hewlett-Packard, working on the assembly line, putting nuts and bolts together on frequency counters. He got me a job in the place that built them. And I was in heaven. And I've never found anyone who said no or hung up the phone when I called. I just asked. And when people ask me, I try to be as responsive, to pay that debt of gratitude back. Most people never pick up the phone and call. Most people never ask. And that's what separates sometimes the people that do things from the people that just dream about them. You gotta act. And you've got to be willing to fail. You've got to be willing to crash and burn. With people on the phone, with starting a company, with whatever. If you're afraid of failing, you won't get very far.
I don't know if there's a golden rule. I can tell you this, that I believe anything is possible, right? I live in the world of possibility, and I also believe that we can accomplish anything with our two hands and just putting in the work with our two hands. And also, you hear this often, but it's really, really true. You got to find something. If you love what you do and be passionate about what you do and find something that you can be passionate like, it really helps. It gives you that motivation when you wake up in the morning.
One of the functions of belief is taking action. We did a survey of about 2,000 top entrepreneurs, and we noticed that one of the things that people who win in that world have is a bias for action. If they have an inspiration, they act on it. I mean, how many of you have ever had a great idea, talked about it, thought about it, didn't do it, and then someone else did it and was successful, and you went, darn, I should have done that. Maybe it was buy that piece of property. We all have that piece of property we wish we'd bought, Anyway. So we're going to be looking at the idea that taking action is part of law of attraction. See, a lot of people think you can just sit in your room, meditate, visualize having the perfect car, the perfect house, the perfect relationship, and then it'll kind of just come to you. And I always say, unless you live at the bottom of a hill where there's a road, it's probably not going to be a Cadillac show up in your living room, right? So think about this. The last 6 letters of the word attraction spell what? A-C-T-I-O-N, action. Now, there's 2 kinds of actions that are critical. There's obvious actions. If you want a certain kind of car, you should go down and test drive it. You should find out how much it costs. You should see what it costs to maintain it. You should I'd like to test drive a car 3 or 4 times, go down to the dealer, take a camera, stick my head out the window, say, take a picture of me, I'll be back to buy it. Put it up on my refrigerator, look at it every day. Eventually, those kind of things produce car. Right? Saving for it and so forth. But there are also things called inspired actions. All of a sudden you get an inspiration to do something and you didn't know what it was. You don't have a sense of how is this rationally going to make sense for me to move forward in my life? I'll give you an example. A friend of mine, Dr. Ignatius Piazza, graduates chiropractic school. He wants to move to Monterey, near Pebble Beach, where the golf course is. And he gets there and he says to the local chiropractic association, I'd like to join you, I'd like you to help me get my practice started. And they said, we don't need any more chiropractors. We have 1 chiropractor for every 8 people in this area. It's too many. Now, he could have said, okay, let the external reality control his internal experience, but he didn't do that. He said, I'm going to think about this and visualize it and believe in it, and something will come that I will do. And what came to him to do was to take 6 months before he opened his office and put a pin where he wanted his office and then concentric circles knock on every door in every neighborhood saying, "Hi, I'm a new doctor in town. Could I ask you a few questions? You know, I'm starting this practice. Should I open from 5 till 9 in the morning, or should I be open from 5 until 9 at night for people who have 9 to 5 jobs? Which would be better? Should I advertise in this paper or that paper? Should I call it Ignatius Piazza Chiropractic or Chiropractic West?" And then his last question was, "If I have an open house, would you like to receive an invitation?" They said yes. He wrote it down. Now, over 6 months, he knocked on 12,500 doors, talked to 6,500 people, and gathered over 4,000 names of people who said, "Yes, I'd like an invitation to your open house." Now, when he opened his office 6 months later in a town that did not need another chiropractor, according to the professionals, his first month in practice, he netted $72,000. In his first year in practice, his gross income was over $1 million. I was giving a talk and mentioning this story just about 5 years ago, and this happened about 25 years ago. Someone said, "He knocked on my door." And he left his card. And 2 years later, I needed the chiropractor, and I called him. Because we work with people we know, we've had an experience with, right? So he trusted his intuition. He took action on it. Other people would say, "Oh, guess I can't have what I want." You got to be willing to take the action.
I find it quite inspiring. You were in film publicity originally, and then at a certain point you decided that you wanted to direct. Can you tell us how you got from there to here?
Well, I was one of those ladies standing on the side, you know, and they work hard and no one ever really gives them a shout out. I thank you all, the publicists in the corner, you know. And as a person who loved film and wanted to make film, you're standing there supporting filmmakers, telling their stories, and it's something that I loved doing. But for me, there was always a little bit of, not jealousy, but just like, wow, that's great what they're doing. And so at the moment when I actually started to write and try to direct my own stuff, I was still doing publicity for other people's films. I was trying to make my own films. I was asking for permission, pitching people, trying to get contacts and network and do all the things that don't matter, because the only thing that matters is your work. And so when I finally realized that and started to make small things and try to move them around festivals and just share my work, the energy behind that positive intention started a ball rolling. And I've only been making films for 5 years. And I only quit my job full time 3 years ago because I was still holding on to publicity as a security blanket. And so yeah, I look at, each year that's passed, and all I've tried to do is continue to make work, whether I have the money to make a film, a narrative, a doc, a commercial, a TV show, directed an episode of Scandal, a documentary about Venus Williams, a story I want to tell through whatever medium, short medium, TV medium, commercial medium, full length, documentary, feature. That's something that I really learned from Spike. Lee, not Jones. I'm sure Jones is nice, but I was talking to a lady. She was like, "Spike Jones?" I was like, "No, lady, it's Spike Lee." But remember he did commercials with Jordan. He's done almost as many docs as he's done narratives. He's made a film every year for the past 20 years. I mean, he's really the blueprint of just not even a black filmmaker, a filmmaker who's just continued to make work. And so that's how we're here now.
I think stress, you can be, I think one of the things that's very important to note about stress is that stress primarily comes from not taking action over something that you can have some control over. So if I find that some particular thing is causing me to have stress, that's a warning flag for me. What it means is there's something that I haven't completely identified, perhaps in my conscious mind, that is bothering me, and I haven't yet taken any action on it. I find as soon as I identify it and make the first phone call or send off the first email message or whatever it is that we're going to do to start to address that situation, even if it's not solved, the mere fact that we're addressing it dramatically reduces any stress that might come from it. So stress comes from ignoring things that you shouldn't be ignoring. I think in large part. So stress doesn't come, people get stress wrong all the time in my opinion. Stress doesn't come from hard work, for example. You can be working incredibly hard and loving it. And likewise, you can be out of work and incredibly stressed over that. So, and likewise, if you kind of use that as an analogy for what I was just talking about, if you're out of work, but you're going through, a disciplined approach of, a series of job interviews and so on and working to remedy that situation, you're going to be a lot less stressed than if you're just worrying about it and doing nothing.
The last thing I'll talk to you about today in building this winning edge is, folks, if you want to win in business, you got to be a leader. Leadership is everything. You show me anything in these United States that win, I'll show you a leader at work. You show me a successful church, Boy Scout troop, club, football team, business, I'll show you something run by a leader. See, I thought at one time in my life you had to be smart to win. I used to have these smart people that dress so pretty and talk so pretty and use these big words. They just intimidated me, and I said, Art, you can't ever be that good. Why don't you just throw in the towel and go back and coach football for a living? And I found two things out about smart people. I think it's almost impossible for a smart person to win in business in America today, because I find smart people spend their whole lifetime figuring things out. They're always trying to figure out an easier way and a quicker way. And another thing I found out about smart people is they just don't get around to doing nothing. And see, somebody like Art Williams, everybody said, well, he can't do it. And somebody like that can't do it, but he does it.
You can't just wait for inspiration to act. That's the biggest mistake people make. Don't wait to be inspired to do the action. You have to do the action first, and then you'll be inspired. So what I would do is I would sit there and draw out the comic, and I would come up with it. But some days I'd come home from school, sit down and go, I'm just going to wait for the inspiration to hit me. I'm going to wait for the idea to come fully formed. And when I got a joke, then I'll go draw it. And I would sit there for maybe 3 or 4 hours and then go, all right, screw it. I got to get up and I got to do the process. I got to sit there and just start drawing. I don't even know why or how I'm going to get there. And then two things would come together, and it would be, oh, there's an idea. Oh, there's the first panel. There's the second panel. And then it would come together. Always. It would not take very long. I would fight that process so much, because what was I doing? I was waiting for inspiration before I acted. It's always the other way around. Act first, then the inspiration will come. Draw first, then the inspiration will come. Just start shooting, then the inspiration will come. Just start moving, then the inspiration will come. Don't wait. So many people wait or tell you they're going to write this novel, or they're going to do this, or they're going to make this film. They never do it, because they're waiting for all this stuff to come to them. It comes through doing it.
See, folks, I want you to know almost everybody in America almost does enough to win. They almost get there. They almost are over the hump. They almost have it going. They almost, in everything they do, almost is a way of life to almost everybody in America. But the winners do it. What do? They do whatever it takes to get the job done. They do it, and do it, and do it, and do it, and do it, until the job gets done. And then they talk about how great it is to be somebody they're proud of. We need leaders in America who can do it. If you want to become somebody, do it. If you want to go in business for yourself, do it. If you want to become financially independent, do it. I hear too much talk in these United States. Everybody can talk a good game. We need people in America who can do it. I go all over this country with A.L. Williams, and I have people say, Art, you can count on me. Wonderful. Just do it. Art, I guarantee you this is my last stop. I'm going to win now. Super duper. Just do it. Art, if I could just have one good month and get the ball going, I know I could make it big. Super. Just do it. Art, if I could just pay off this debt, I could really go. Great. Just do it. Art, if I could just sell my house. Do it. But houses ain't selling. Do it anyway. Art, I'm not making any money. What can I do? You just do it. Do what, Art? You do it, and do it, and do it.
We try to hire really smart people, but we have a very simple organization, and we try to focus and do very few things well. And focusing's hard, because focusing doesn't mean saying yes, it means saying no. So we decide not to do a lot of things, so we can focus on a few handfuls of things and do them well. And I think, everybody working in a company wants to do something great. They want to be excited about what they're working on. And they want to be recognized for it if they do a really great job. So we just try to allow people to do the best work of their lives at Apple and get it out to 25 million customers that we have. And that's very exciting. And when you're working on something and if this works out, up to 25 million people are going to use this. It's very motivating. And it's not just 25 million of our customers, but other companies tend to follow us. You know, it takes them a few years, but other companies tend to copy what we do if it works. Right. And so we can influence the whole industry.
All right, I guarantee I'm going to win this contest. Super duper. Just do it. All right, I'm over the hump now. Watch my smoke. Great. Just do it. All right, I want to make it so bad I can taste it. What I do, you just do it. All right, I'm a vice president now. Can I quit doing it? No. All right, I don't know if I can keep on keeping on. I'm really hurting. What I do, you just do it. Do what, Art? You do it, and do it, and do it. Art, all my life I wanted to be somebody important. Well, what do it then? All right, I'm going to save money so I don't have to go through this again. Great. Just do it. All right, I don't feel like I've had enough training. What I do? You just do it. All right, my manager don't give me no help. What I do? You just do it. All right, you don't understand. I was Mr. Everything in my former company. You don't mean I have to start off down at the bottom and do it, do you? Yep, you really got to do it. All right, what's the primary difference between winners and losers? The winners do it. They do it, and do it, and do it, and do it, until the job gets done. And then they talk about how great it is to finally have achieved something unique, and how glad they are that they didn't quit like everybody else, and how wonderful it is to finally be somebody they're proud of and make a difference with their life. Thank you.
A lot of people come to me and they say, well, I want to be an entrepreneur. And I go, oh, that's great. What's your idea? And they go, well, I don't have one yet. And I say, well, I think you should go get a job as a busboy or something until you find something you're really passionate about, because it's a lot of work. And I'm convinced that about half of what separates the successful entrepreneurs from the non-successful ones is pure perseverance. It is so hard. You pour so much of your life into this thing, and there are such rough moments in time that most people give up. I don't blame them. I mean, it's really tough, and it consumes your life. I mean, if you've got a family and you're in the early days of a company, I can't imagine how one could do it. I'm sure it's been done, but it's rough. I mean, because it's pretty much an 18-hour-a-day job, 7 days a week for a while. So unless you have a lot of passion about this, you're going to not survive. You're going to give it up. So you got to have an idea or a problem or a wrong that you want to right that you're passionate about. Otherwise, you're not going to have the perseverance to stick it through. And I think that's half the battle right there. It's hard to remember how bad it was, in early 80s, with IBM taking over the world with the PC, with DOS out there. It was far worse than the Apple II. And they tried to copy the Apple II, and they'd done a pretty bad job, and you needed to know a lot. And so things were kind of slipping backwards. And Macintosh was, you saw the 1984 commercial. I hope you have that in your archives. Macintosh was basically this relatively small company, in Cupertino, California, taking on the Goliath, IBM, and saying, wait a minute, your way is wrong. This is not the way we want computers to go. This is not the legacy we want to leave. This is not what we want our kids to be learning. This is wrong, and we are going to show you the right way to do it. And here it is. It's called Macintosh, and this is so much better that it's going to beat you. And we are going to do it. And that's what Apple stood for.
Next best predictor of lifetime success is conscientiousness. And of the two aspects of conscientiousness, say orderliness and industriousness, the better predictor is industriousness. So the question is, well, what can you do about your industriousness? And the answer to that is, well, that's kind of rough too, because there's a strong genetic component. But you can work on micro habits with regards to your conscientiousness, and I think the best micro habits, this is partly to do with this future authoring program processes, I think the best thing you can do with regards to your conscientiousness is to set up some aims for yourself, goals that you actually value. And the future authoring program helps people do that. And basically, it does a situational analysis it helps you do a situational analysis of your life more than a psychological analysis, I would say. And so the questions are something like, well, all right, you're going to have to put some effort into your life. And you need to be motivated to do that. And so what are the potential sources of motivation? Well, you could think about them in the big five. manner. You know, if you're extroverted, you want friends. If you're agreeable, you want an intimate relationship. If you're disagreeable, you want to win competitions. If you're open, you want to engage in creative activity. If you're high neuroticism, you want security. Okay, so those are all sources of potential motivation that you could draw on, that you could tailor to your own, you know, your own personality. But then there are dimensions that you want to consider your life across. And so we ask people about, well, you know, if you could have your life the way you wanted it in 3 to 5 years, if you were taking care of yourself properly, you know, what would you want from your friendships? What would you want from your intimate relationship? How would you like to structure your family? What do you want for your career? Well, how are you going to use your time outside of your job? And how are you going to regulate your mental and physical health, and maybe also your drug and alcohol use? Because that's a good place to auger down, you know, because alcoholism, for example, wipes out, you know, 5 to 10% of people. So you want to keep that under control. And then so maybe, you know, you develop a vision of what you would like your life to be, and that associates the goal. Well, once the goal is established, and then you break down the goal into micro processes that you can implement, the micro processes become rewarding in proportion, in relation to their causal association with the goal, and that tangles in your incentive reward system. You know, we talked about the dopaminergic incentive reward system, and that's the thing that keeps you moving forward. And the way it works is that it works better if it produces positive emotion when it can see you moving towards a valued goal. Okay, well, what's the implication of that? Better have a valued goal, because otherwise you can't get any positive motivation working out. And so the more valuable the goal, in principle, the more the micro processes associated with that goal start to take on a positive charge. And so what that means is, well, you get up in the morning and you're excited about the day, you're ready to go. And so as far as I can tell, what you do is you specify your long-term ideal. Maybe you also specify a place you want to stay the hell away from, so that you're terrified to fail as well as excited about succeeding, because that's also useful. You specify your goal. You do that in some sense as a unique individual. You want to specify goals that make you say, oh, if that could happen as a consequence of my efforts, it would clearly be worthwhile. Because the question always is, why do something? Because doing nothing is easy. You just sit there and you don't do anything. That's real easy. The question is, why would you ever do anything? And the answer to that has to be because you've determined by some means that it's worthwhile. And then the next question might be, well, where should you look for worthwhile things? And one would be, well, you could consult your own temperament. And the other would be, well, you kind of look at what it is that people accrue that's valuable across the lifespan. So you do a structural analysis of the subcomponents of human existence, and I already did that. You need a family, you need friends. Like, you don't need to have all these things, but you better have most of them. Family, friends, career, educational goals, plans for, you know, time outside of work, attention to your mental and physical health, etc. You know, that's what life is about. And if you don't have any of those things, well, then all you've got left is misery and suffering. So that's a bad deal for you. So once you set up that goal structure, let's say, and that's really in many ways that's what you should be doing at university. That's exactly what you should be doing, is trying to figure out who it is that you're trying to be, right? And you aim at that, and then you use everything you learned as a means of building that person that you want to be. And I really mean want to be. I don't mean should be. Even those things are going to overlap. And it's important to distinguish between those, because that's partly, and this is back down to the micro routine analysis. So if I was saying, well, you're going to try to make yourself more industrious. Okay, number one, specify your damn goals, because how are you going to hit something if you don't know what it is? That isn't going to happen. And often people won't specify their goals too, because they don't like to specify conditions for failure. So if you keep yourself all vague and foggy, which is real easy, because that's just a matter of not doing as well, then you don't know when you fail. And people might say, well, I really don't want to know when I fail because that's painful. So I'll keep myself blind about when I fail. That's fine, except you'll fail all the time then. You just won't know it until you've failed so badly that you're done. And that can easily happen by the time you're 40. So I would recommend that you don't let that happen. So that's willful blindness, right? You could have known, but you chose not to. Okay, so once you get your goal structure set up, you think, okay, if I could have this life, it looks like that might be worth living, despite the fact that it's going to be, you know, anxiety provoking and threatening, and there's going to be some suffering and loss involved in all of that, obviously. The goal is to have a vision for your life such that, all things considered, that justifies your effort.
But somebody must have told people, oh, life is going to be real easy. No! If they told you that, I've got a special announcement. They lied! Didn't nobody warn you that it was going to come down on you like this? That's called life. You accept yourself, then you accept the fear as a fact and not a force. See, when you accept yourself and you accept fear as a fact, that means that it's something that happens, it's something that you're going to experience, but it is not a force to hold you back. It doesn't have any special power other than that you give it. So you accept the fact that you're afraid, and then you move on anyhow. One of the things that you've got to do is you've got to watch your inner conversation and discipline your thinking and your imagination, because if you don't, your mind will take you on a wild trip. See, when you are not filling your life with the things that you are capable of doing, see, we all have some stuff that we've been given. And I don't think that it's optional for us to sit on what we have. See, if you're sitting on what you have, what you've been given, and I think everybody's been given something to bring to the planet, that only you can do that, only you can perform that, only you can initiate that activity. And if you don't do that, if you're not filling in your life with your life work or your mission, then there are gaps in your life. And what we do when we're not living out our true identity, we begin to fill the gaps. We fill the holes with garbage. Alcohol, drugs, worry, self-destructive behavior. So when you begin to look at your life and you know that you're not doing what you can do because you have allowed yourself to be held captive by your fears. Now, when you don't have a true appreciation and acceptance for who you are, and you allow yourself to be immobilized by fear, what happens in the process is that you begin to abuse yourself. You begin to sabotage your life, you begin to sabotage your dreams, you begin to unconsciously work against yourself. You become your own worst enemy. So what do you do about that? Well, you begin to realize that your dream and your gifts have so much meaning and so much value for you till your hunger for them will begin to push you past the fear. Your hunger to have them will give you a special drive. As you work on yourself, as you begin to acknowledge your true identity, the true power that you have, the true capacity you have to bring about change, the miracle-working power that you have within yourself to do the things that you want to do.
What is it that you have that so many people who are unbelievably brilliant at engineering or are incredibly good managers or bold business people or what have you, what is it that you have, do you think, that enables you to make this stuff happen?
Well, first of all, I certainly don't think I can, do anything or do most things that people think are impossible, because I think a lot of what people think is impossible is actually impossible. But occasionally it's not. I guess it's. I don't think I've said this before. I think it's helpful to have kind of a physics framework for looking at things. Do a first principles analysis, look for negative feedback, really believe in what you're doing, but not just from a blind faith standpoint. Like to have really thought about it and say, okay, this is true. I'm convinced it's true, and I've tried every angle to figure out if it's untrue, and sort negative feedback to figure out maybe if I'm maybe wrong. But then after all that, it still seems like this is the right way to go. Then that I think gives one a fundamental conviction and an ability to convey that conviction to others, and to convince them to join. And that's what a company is. It's a group of people who come together to create a product of some kind. And so if you can convey that and answer the concerns that people have, convince them that this is something that needs to be done, it's important, and here is a path to do it, even if that path has a lot of danger associated with it and risk, and maybe it won't succeed. But people can understand, okay, this is why it's important, and even if the odds are that it won't succeed, it's worth trying to do it. Then I think you can create a great company.
I want you to ponder these 4 questions. Here's the first one, and that's why. Why pay the price? Why work this hard? Why go this far? Why try to learn this much? Why try to do it all? Why try to see it all? Why try to have it all? Why do it? Why learn it? Why study? Why put yourself out? Why try to take on this much responsibility? Why develop yourself to the full? Why try to become all that you can possibly become? Why try to earn as much as you can earn, share as much as you can share, develop every skill you possibly can, see every human you possibly can, go to every class you possibly can, touch everybody you possibly can? Why do that much? Why go that far? Why share that much? Why give that much away? Why try to see everything? Why try to do everything? Why try to become everything? That's a good question, why? And you're the only one personally that can answer that question for yourself. You've got to have your own list of whys. Here's what I want you to do when you go home after you've left this extravaganza. Work on your list of whys. One of the big thrusts for success is to come up with a strong enough why. In leadership training, here's what we learn. If the why is powerful, the how is easy. But if the why isn't strong, if your goals aren't powerful, if the vision isn't clear, the old prophet said, without a vision we die, without a vision we perish, without a dream we're nothing.
Well, I think it's important to have a very, to apply critical thinking to, this may sound trite, but to apply critical thinking to what one is doing. And by that I mean just the fundamentals of logic, you know, do you have the right axioms? Are they relevant? And are you making the right conclusions based on those axioms? That's the essence of critical thinking, and yet it is amazing how often people fail to do that. I think wishful thinking is innate in the human brain. You want things to be the way you wish them to be, and so you tend to filter information that you shouldn't filter. That's the most common flaw that I see.
Idea comes, and you see it, and you hear it, and you know it.
How does it come?
It comes like on a TV in your mind.
You know, there's a line I've always loved of Leonard Cohen. He said, if I knew where the good songs came from, I would go there more often.
Absolutely. People, we don't do anything without an idea. So they're beautiful gifts. And I always say, you desiring an idea is like a bait on a hook.
Yeah.
It can pull them in. And if you catch an idea that you love, that's a beautiful, beautiful day. And you write that idea down so you won't forget it. And that idea that you caught might just be a fragment of the whole, whatever it is you're working on. But now you have even more bait. Thinking about that small fragment, that little fish, will bring in more. And they'll come in and they'll hook on. And more come in, and pretty soon you might have a script, or a chair, or a painting, or an idea for a painting.
But they come as in small...
More often than not, small fragments. I like to think of it as in the other room, the puzzle is all together. but they keep flipping in just one piece at a time.
In the other room.
Over there.
In a sense, David, there's always another room somewhere.
That's a beautiful thing to think about.